Welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Brenda.
Time for a new podcast.
Yes.
But first, a question.
Oh, yes, of course. I always forget that.
Your favorite spot in London?
Ooh, my favorite spot in London. Well, now because this weekend we're going to London, because I'm going to record a new podcast with the lovely Dan Cable. So then, of course, I have to say the favorite spot is the newly to be discovered podcast recording studio somewhere in Shoreditch.
All right, nice. Thank you. But today we are talking about journey and channel teams and 10 steps how to build them.
Yes.
Let's start with why this podcast.
Yes. So in many CX programs, a lot of things are being measured. We're measuring channels, we're measuring touch points, we're measuring sometimes journeys. Ideally, we're also measuring journeys. But too often I see that there is no, let's say, team on the receiving end of that survey. So we're measuring a lot, but nobody's actually doing something with it. Or if they are doing something with it, it's really siloed. So maybe Department X is doing something, the other department. So when we are making sure that we create this new way of working that's more customer centric, we are always thinking we want to work with journey teams, not to completely redesign or restructure the organization, but just as a very organic way to make sure that all the different departments come together to improve the journey. And when I was thinking about setting up journey teams, because we're also measuring, of course, channels, I also thought, hey, but it's also nice because normally with channels we mean like call, like a shop, like email. And normally, of course, you have the managers of the channel that are responsible. But here we thought, hey, isn't it also a nice experiment? So in a few months, we'll let you know if this was a good idea or not. Where we say, hey, let's also create a channel team that consists, for example, for call, that consists of, let's say, 2 agents, maybe 2 team leaders, somebody from the quality team, somebody from HR.
Yeah.
So also we create this rhythm, and we'll go more in detail before I answer already all 10 steps.
So this was the podcast. Thank you, Zana.
So both journey and channel teams to optimize for actually doing something and moving from analysis to execution.
Yeah. All right. Clear. So how do we start? How do we set up these teams?
Yeah, so I was sort of drafting the approach that we have created, and then in the end, I could create nice 10 steps. Not super artificial. So, of course, the first step is to think about, as I mentioned, who will be in those teams. And the different departments. So for a journey, it's all the departments that play a role in the journey.
Yep.
Probably somebody from digital, from marketing, from customer service, from product development, from finance, depending on the journey, of course. Also, we're adding somebody from HR because we also want to make sure that instead of only focusing on the customer journey, hey, are the employees who need to deliver that journey, are they maximally optimized to do that, right? So there's also a link to the detailed employee journey. That's why it's nice to also add HR. Maybe there's training that's needed. And for the channel teams, as I just mentioned, right? Maybe 2 or 3 employees who work in the call center, if it's call, or who work in the shop, team leaders, HR, digital, because maybe we can also prevent calls by moving it to the app or the website.
Yeah.
And then, so what we're saying, we have 3 different roles in those teams. So we have, let's say, a coordinator. Maybe could be a high potential. Somebody's really energized to experiment and to create a lot of energy there. A facilitator, that's more, let's say, the PMO, the project kind of role, right? Keeping track of to-dos, making sure the planning is being met, that kind of details. And then, let's say, participants or members of the team. And you want to make sure, of course, that you cover the relevant departments. And then I think maybe the biggest thing to think about is what type of people.
Yeah.
I think it should be a good balance between let's say, the Zana DNA of only being positive and seeing opportunities versus maybe also some more critical. I don't think you want to have the people that are really in resistance mode, right? But I think critical thinking and challenging, there should be a good balance. I think the key selection criteria should be, hey, are they energized to be part of this, right? Do they want to make an impact? Do they feel okay with experimentation and not drown too much in doing all the analysis? So I think also think of a good balance of yes, understanding a little deeper. Hey, maybe we see, I don't know, that the employees need to listen better. There's a balance between, okay, let's start experimenting, for example, with tiny habits, versus, hey, maybe also let's take some time to understand what's the cause behind this. Is maybe empathy not enough part of the training? So I think a balance, so not zero analysis on root cause, but also not having like 3 months of root cause
Yeah,
and not doing
exactly.
anything in the
Yeah.
meantime.
All right. And when we talk about journey teams, it's not only on the customer side, right? I buy the product, I use the product, but also on the employee side.
Yeah, good addition indeed. So also we're going to do this, for example, for the onboarding journey of employees. So we're also going to see, okay, for that team, it's also a mix of marketing, of HR, of some colleagues who recently went through the onboarding journey. So definitely also for the employee side of the journeys.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So step number 2, because you don't want to make it boring or
Exactly. You want to create some energy, right? So you
yeah.
want to invite them in a special way, whatever that means for your organization. I don't know, maybe you let the CEO call them. Maybe you send a handwritten card. Maybe you record a video. Go a little nuts.
I was thinking, I got the image when you said that with the lottery in Holland, that they come to your door with the big.
You had a big board, you won 1 million, and I would say, hey, you are part of the journey team.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
Make a nice video out of that, right?
exactly. Bring some balloons, just to make a moment out of it.
Yeah.
Because when you have several journey teams and you have several channels, you quickly are talking about, let's say, if it's on average between 8 to 12 people, and maybe you have 3 journey teams, I don't know, 4 channel teams, then you already talk about 70 people,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's also good to think about the right mix of people, but also make it explicit. Also, when they are already a bit further ahead, that they make a video, present themselves to the organization. So really make conscious design choices for each step, because you yes, you want to experiment with this specific team, but more importantly, you want to learn and make sure this becomes a new way of working.
Yeah. So maybe you don't start with the 7 teams as well, right? You can start with 1 or 2 or 3.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Step number 3.
Step number 3. So they received the invitation, and then we said, okay, let's make sort of an onboarding kit. And again, not the boring onboarding kit. But one of the things that we have already done is that we've created a blueprint on, okay, so how should journey teams and channel teams work? What steps do they go through? So sharing that document with, just a small, again, video recording explaining, hey, what is the document all about? You probably have a roadmap for your CX program. Again, walking them through, hey, where do you and the team fit in the bigger picture?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, if you've been a loyal listener, you know that we're very much a fan of the work of Dan Cable and the best self exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things, so the next step will be the kickoff, but to prepare for that, also a short video about, hey, what is the best self exercise? So they can already start thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then bring that to the kickoff. So these are some elements of the onboarding kit, but also here you can go, of course, as nuts as you want to.
Exactly. And this is also we in the following steps we talk a little bit about sensitizing as well. This is also a bit of sensitizing for the kickoff, right?
Yes, it's a bit for the kickoff, but I think when we get to the workshop, we do it a bit more extensively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So step number 3, the onboarding kits. Step number 4, the kickoff.
Yeah, so the goal of the kickoff is, so we're planning, let's say, 1 hour virtual session, and we're doing that per team. So of course we could do a virtual session with, let's say, 70 people, but we feel it's important that they get this team spirit, so they build some energy between them. So the key focus of the kickoff is around the best self exercise, them getting to know each other, create a lot of energy. And then also at the end sharing, hey, this is what the journey for the next, let's say, 6 to 10 weeks look like. We are here to help you, just explaining all the details so they also understand the role where we focus more on the things that are happening in the short term, which would be the first session is a workshop to, hey, this is the data we have on the journey. How can we redesign it or the channel? And then slowly but surely walk them through the rest of the steps.
Yeah. And you say role, it's not something I do for 40 hours a week, right?
No, I think we're saying, let's say half a day, maximum a day a week. I think maybe not even, but I think it's always better to say that it takes more time and in reality it's less than the other way around.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I had my kickoff.
Yes, so you're
Next step in
super
my journey.
energized. So you don't want to have too much time between the kickoff and the actual workshop because then you lose energy. The same as we said when you launch the program around tiny habits. When people sign up, you don't want them to wait for 4 weeks before they can start the tiny habits. So what we do as sensitizing before, so sensitizing is a technique that's being used in service design. And it's a general technique that actually helps to ensure that you get more rich brainstorming ideas in a workshop.
Yeah.
So when people just show up at the workshop, they are, let's say, less prone to start thinking. Let's say the workshop is all about, I don't know, enhancing the onboarding journey of employees. When you just start the workshop and you say, hey, this is the data, let's start thinking about ideas, that's super challenging. So sensitizing is that a week before, in our case, a week before the workshop, every day, you let them do a very, very tiny exercise. It could also just be questions. For example, maybe think back when you had the best onboarding experience ever. Or hey, if purpose is really relevant, how would you want to integrate purpose in onboarding? Right, just short questions. Take a picture of something that shows you how you want an onboarding to feel. So they already start thinking about it, so you get much richer ideas when you actually do the workshop.
Yeah, nice. And then, of course, step 6.
The workshop itself.
Yeah.
So in the workshop, also the goal here is, of course, again, to always, I think it's always helpful to start any session, any workshop with, hey, where are we again in the program?
Yeah.
Because, of course, you as the CX manager lead, you are doing this full time. But for them, it's indeed something they're doing next to their role.
Yeah.
So keep repeating where they are.
Yeah. And also that you have the whole story, right? It's not just a workshop. It's not just a journey team. It's really the whole story of your company.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's all connected.
It's always the integrated story of, remember, right? Our aim is to use CX transformation to create this more human-centric culture. So how does this fit in?
Yeah.
And how are the drivers connected? How is the employee experience connected to the journey teams? What data can we use? Right. So indeed, always think about the bigger picture without losing them.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's really about, hey, just at the 10 minutes, this is the big picture, and then again, sort of go back to implementation mode and concrete level. But indeed, it's good that they always realize, hey, this is not just a separate thing that we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and what are we doing after this integrated story in the workshop?
So in the workshop, starting with, hey, sharing, this is the data, right, that we discovered. Let's say you're the journey team for onboarding for a new insurance company. I'm just making it up. Hey, so we've done the survey. These are the drivers. Maybe we have some internal data where we see, I don't know, maybe the time it takes for the onboarding journey is super long, or any other relevant data. And then the goal is really, because they have done this also as part of the preparation, right? So part of the sensitize, hey, just check already. We design a Miro board. Just check already the Miro board so you can start thinking about the data that you're seeing. And then here also the goal, I think the risk of many journey redesign programs that we start making a huge list of possible improvements. And then you tend to sort of get stuck, or you do them half. So my goal is to really, again, make it really practical. So yes, first 20 minutes, start brainstorming about ideas. The second 20 minutes is already, okay, for the next 2 weeks, select 3, maximum 5 improvements that you could start implementing in the next 2 weeks. So always focus on execution mode. And of course, these improvements need to be connected to the drivers. We'll always challenge, hey, it's sometimes good to get some quick wins, but let's make sure that we improve the drivers first.
Yeah. And not only the drivers, right, but also the promises you as an organization make to your customer.
Yeah, so always also check indeed the brand promise, right, or the purpose of your organization. It's always a balanced set of things, and what we tend to see is that the key drivers for customers, of course, tends to be connected to brand values, tends to be connected to the purpose of employees.
Yeah.
So everything is beautifully connected, of course. And then also use the time. So again, sort of speed dating, right? 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
In between sharing, hey, these are the things we selected. These are the 3 to 5 improvements. And then also already spend time, okay, for the next 2 weeks, what do we need to make sure that we can actually implement those 3 to 5 improvements?
Yeah.
We have everybody here from all the departments, but still maybe we need, I don't know, some additional, maybe we need to listen to some calls, or maybe we need to do some additional checks. So then at the end of the workshop, they should have a very clear plan. Okay, what are we going to do for the next 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And I think if you scope it back that small, right, it's 2 weeks, it makes it way more tangible. Yes, again, it's 2 weeks in a bigger scheme of the next 10 to 12 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But let's start with the 2 weeks. And then I'll shut up because I was already going to the next bullets.
And you said, right, the kickoff is only with my journey or channel team, but these workshops are with all the journey teams or all the channel teams, right?
Yeah, I think that's a choice, right? I think indeed there's value to do it together because, well, you're starting this journey, and it's not just, I don't just want to improve the channel or the journey. We want this to become a new way of working in the organization.
Yeah.
So I think it's always nice, even if your journeys are separate or your channels are separate, I think you can definitely learn from each other, inspire each other. Um, I'm not sure if you should combine journey and channel teams in one workshop.
Mm-hmm.
So our idea is that we mix channel teams in workshop A and then journey teams in workshop B,
Yeah.
because the approach is a little different.
Yeah. All right. So that was step 6 and step 7.
Yeah, so the rest of the steps are, okay, how do we create a good rhythm, an
Yeah.
execution rhythm, but also reflection rhythm? So step 7 is that at least twice a week. So there's an important difference between checking the results regularly versus checking the progress of the execution. I always say don't drive each other crazy with checking weekly, the satisfaction scores, but make sure that you have a weekly rhythm where you check, hey, we said in a workshop that, I don't know, Miranda was going to do this. Hey, Miranda, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Do you need any help? So we say we have a weekly rhythm where twice a week they come together. It could be twice a week, 15 minutes, right? Just depending on the need. But make sure that it's a rhythm, and that's connected to step 8, where we say, okay, they get together independently twice a week. Once every 2 weeks, one of the meetings consists of coaching. So that's where we have a meeting with them and just discuss, hey, how are you doing? Any challenges you're facing? Any support you need from us? So just to help them along in their journey.
Yeah. Don't let them drown.
Don't let them drown. And also, I think the risk also sort of guide them where maybe they are inclined to go down the analysis hole too much.
The analysis rabbit hole.
The analysis rabbit hole. As to get them back, hey, focus on execution. And I think even if you have to choose between executing in the next 2 weeks and maybe it's not the biggest driver, I would still then prefer that because you want to get some rhythm going of, hey, we are able to execute.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to take 3 months.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So that was 7 and 8. We go to the last 2. Step number 9.
Yeah, so we said every 2 weeks it's coaching. So that's just ongoing. Hey, are things going well? Are you not analyzing too much? Or also maybe challenging, hey, you're only choosing improvements that have nothing to do with the drivers. And so just being sort of a mirror to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then every 6 weeks, because we're also, so we have two goals. One is to indeed get to execution. The other one is, yes, we've created a blueprint or how a journey or channel team should work. But of course, you always learn things as you go. So every 6 weeks is a more reflection as a whole. Okay, looking at the way of working of the journey team, looking at the way of working of the channel team. Is this the most efficient? I don't know. For example, maybe we started with 12 people, but we see that, I don't know, 2 people have no role because their departments are not connected to any of the improvements. I'm just making it up, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I think every 6 weeks, it's good to sort of reflect on a sort of second order to say, okay, the team as such, as we designed it, getting together 2 times a week, is it enough? Is it too much?
Yeah.
Um, do you have enough data to analyze things, right? To just have a reflection on the way of working of the teams as such, so that after 2 or 3 of those reflections, you again tweak the blueprint so a
Yeah.
new journey team, a new channel team can have again the best version that you have been adding to.
I love it. And you finish with another step, but we already discussed it a little bit, I think.
Yeah, so the final step is indeed what I just mentioned. Don't go nuts and check the results on a weekly basis. Depending on the, let's say, the size of the journey, the size of the channel, which means, let's say, the number of interactions, meaning the number of surveys you can get back. Depending on if it's a super large call center, of course, you can check something on a monthly basis. If it's a journey that might be more challenging, so we say maybe do a quarterly check. Hey, all the improvements that we've been doing the last couple of weeks, do we indeed see the satisfaction and the drivers increase?
Yeah. How many responses, how many measurements do you need to have a monthly check?
So we always say to run the drivers analysis, which in this case you have already done, right? You need 100 or more, but just to see, hey, is the increase, is it a coincidence or is it, let's say, structurally? Ideally 30, but the bare minimum is 20 responses.
Yeah. All right.
So that should be pretty feasible for most journeys, because when you're choosing the journey team, so which journey team am I going to start with? Always choose the journeys that have the most number of customers, or maybe it's a super strategic new journey, fair enough. But you want to again start with the things that have like the 80-20, which journeys have the 20% of the journeys are probably impacting 80% of the customers.
Yeah. All right. And then, of course, you have people that say, yeah, well, the scores went up, but we did this and this and this. How do you
make sure that it's connected to the improvements?
Exactly.
Well, that's again where I put on my very pragmatic opportunist hat. Because of course you can never be 100% sure, right? Because in 6 weeks other things are happening, marketing is maybe doing something. So it's still sort of a best educated guess. But the interesting thing is that this is also related to tiny habits. So when we do tiny habits campaigns, we hope that 10 to 30% of the employees says, hey, I want to be part of this campaign. So let's say you're with, I don't know, 1,000 employees, between 100 and 300 are actually doing something. So also there I had several times, because every time then after 3 months we saw a huge increase in satisfaction of all customers. So every time the question was, yeah, but it's only, us, the 10 to 30%. So how can this be, right? But the interesting thing is also here, right? The journey team is not a standalone thing. Before we start a journey team, we have already shared the program approach with everybody. We have already shared, hey, this is what the satisfaction scores are for all the channels with all the employees. So you're planting a lot of seeds already with everybody. And I think you should never underestimate what that does already with the mindset, right? Just communication with everybody. There are examples that are being shared. And yes, next to that, some teams are working on the improvements. And especially in the first rounds, I think it's more important to create energy and, okay, it's not 100% sure, but hey, we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Then again, to drown in wanting to prove 100% sure that these 2 tiny improvements were the biggest increase of satisfaction.
Exactly. All right, nice. I think that's it, right?
I think so too.
Okay, so a new podcast with Dan, let's say in 1 or 2 weeks, something like that.
Yes, recording on Friday, so yeah, I think 1 or 2 weeks for sure. Maybe sooner, but
For the people, I can't imagine, but for the people who haven't heard the first one with Dan Cable, it's on Spotify, Buzzsprout.
Yeah, it's the second episode of the whole podcast series.
Yes,
So it
so-
was 4 years ago.
Check that one.
Yes.
Also, when it's 4 years ago, it's nice to listen again.
Still relevant.
And thank you. See you next time.
My pleasure. Till next time.